house flipper, a businesswoman, a go-getter, a big investor, a gold builder that could teach you to get richer like millions, baby. You really about to fill your savings. You about to have multiple streams to pass your children, baby. Let me teach you to get your credit on track in the long run. You'll make it all back at Catalyst and watch it all psychology black home firm, but we ain't all black.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Constance Carter. What's happening? This is the Grow Your Money podcast where we talk about how to grow your money and not blow your money. Because if you blow your money, it ain't a damn thing funny. You guys come in. I know it is, I haven't been on here consistently, you guys. So all the people who normally be rocking with me, I just want to give you a shout out. Make sure, listen, every time I come live, I want you to know this is a dialogue and not a monologue. Okay. So the reason why I do live and not like some edited live, podcast is because I like for you to talk back to me and talk black to me. So what does that mean? We are dialoguing. Put your comments in the chat so that I can answer your questions because I love to answer them live. Now I'm on about 8 different streams. Okay. So if you're on Instagram, I'll go over there and check on you guys every once in a while. But for the most part, I can't put your comments on the main chat. So if you're on Instagram, God bless you. If you want to stay there, that's cool. If not, go anywhere at I Am Constance Carter. Go to Facebook, I Am Constance Carter. Go to YouTube, I Am Constance Carter. Go anywhere. And then like if you want to like really, really, really engage and you want to, you want your chat to be seen, you can go over there. But shout out to everybody. Like I said, it's been, I haven't been really consistent on here like I need to be. But I always like to talk about things. And this is Wednesday. This is hump day. So we're halfway through the week. But I like to talk about things that I think that are really important, really engaging. And so we have some special guests coming on a little bit later to talk about like the education system and what's going on in the perils of the education system. But before we do that, I'd like to talk to you about this new housing bill that just rolled out on the 11th, I believe. And it's funny. So let's get into it because I want to talk about how it affects you because there's a lot of people that are talking about it and me being in real estate. And oh, by the way, if you don't know who I am, or if you never heard of me, I'm Constance Carter. I am CEO and broker of Catalyst Real Estate Professionals. I built the largest Black owned real estate firm in California. I am an author. I have several books, 8 or 9 books. I don't know at this point. And I exist really to help Black people build wealth, whether it's through building the wealth, maintain and sustain it, and then also passing it. So my latest book is How to Create Your Living Trust Using AI, because it's not enough. We always talk about building wealth. We always talk about getting rich, getting the bag and all that stuff. But one of the things that we don't often do as Black people a lot is keep the bag and pass the bag on to our children and our children's children. So when you look at generational wealth, Black people, when the others had 400 years of generational wealth that they were building, we were building generational trauma. And so I did a video recently where I talked about how this is right after the America 250 year celebration, how white America has been free for 250 years. Black people have been free for roughly 60 years. So we've really had 60 years to kind of take advantage. And I would say 50, arguably 50 to 60 years. Because when you think about it, Jim Crow lasted into the 60s. Redlining lasted into the 70s. So like 50 to 60 years. So we haven't been able to really take advantage of a lot of wealth building opportunities. And the reason why I love to talk about real estate is because real estate is the number one way to wealth in this country. Wealth is passed intergenerationally, but real estate is the number one way that people have built wealth. And they're not making any more land. So if you could buy. It's never a bad time to buy. Like Warren Buffett said, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. And that's the reason why I talk about it all the time, because number one, it's a great investment overall. The market goes up and down, it's cyclical, but it'll always recover. And I could just tell you, like from personal experience, like I've had many properties. I own commercial properties and residential properties. And I know, like, if you've ever heard my story, I filed bankruptcy. I've had short sales, foreclosures, and all those things. But one of the properties that I short sold, both of them recovered beautifully. One I short sold for like $250. I have it in contract right now. The buyers are my pastor. I short sold it I bought it for $500. Short sold it to them for $250 in 2012. We're selling it right now for like $700,000. So had I held on to it, I would have had the equity. There was another property that I short sold. I bought it for $150. I think I owed $220 on it. when I short sold it. It was worth, I sold it to, I owed 220, and it was 180 when I short sold it for 180. Ended up maybe within a year recovered. Like that's the one I really regretted. That was the very first house that I bought at 23, and that, again, I'm looking at the right now, and that's what a lot of people. That's what a lot of us do, is we look at the right now. We don't look at the long term. So anytime you're looking at investing, whether it's stock, real estate, or anything else, you got to look at the long term. You don't look at just what's going on right now. And so that house that I sold back in, I think I sold that same year, 2012, for 180, is now worth somewhere almost close to 600,000. So had I kept it within a year, I would have recouped my money. But even beyond that, had I kept it, I would have really had some major equity. Now, I've made some really bad decisions and I made some really good decisions. And that's the reason why I can speak confidently and authoritatively to it, because I made the mistakes. And the reason why I'm able to tell you that is because I'm using my hardships as a blueprint so that I can help you. And so real estate is my thing. I've helped thousands of people become homeowners as the broker of Catalyst Real Estate Professionals. I own a marijuana dispensary. So my thing is, whatever I could do to build wealth and pass it to my children is what I do. Excuse me a second. Make sure. Okay. And so that's what I do. And so the things that I do, I just help other people do the same thing. So going to the housing bill. So let's just talk about what that looks like, because the housing bill, it was just passed on July 11th. Your boy, Donald Trump, did absolutely not want it to pass. Well, he did. I don't know if he didn't want it to pass. See, he's using everything as leverage for his SAVE Act. And what is the SAVE Act? The SAVE Act is for him to try, honestly, a way for him to try to control the elections, but whatever. So he wants this new act so that it has nothing to do with the housing bill, but he was saying, I'm not signing it unless you guys sign the SAVE Act into law, which they didn't. So and according to the Constitution, if he doesn't not sign it and there's a majority in the House and Senate, it passes. So it passed. So that's the good news. What it doesn't do, it doesn't reduce your interest. It doesn't make houses more affordable right now, but there's a potential for home affordability. Right now, the median home in the U.S. is $440,000 as of June 2026. That's up nearly 50% from 2020. 2020, the average price of houses were $200,000. June 2026, it's up 50%. So if you got in in 2020, kudos to you. You probably made some good money, and the housing prices aren't going down. And a lot of people, and I have had several clients, we want to wait and see if we're going to get another 2008, which you won't. But you will see that the market will go do this. But if you hold on for the right time, then it will become a great investment for you. Okay. The typical first-time home buyer is older than it's ever been in the history of this country, 42 years old. I was 23 when I bought my first house. And fortunately and unfortunately, there's a lot of multi-generational living going on. People are staying with their parents a lot longer. My children, well, three of my kids are in, one just graduated from college, two are in college. So they're home with me. But my daughter, who she owns real estate, and she's actually making money renting it out. But she's 27 years old. She's turned 27 and she lives with me. So a lot of people are living at home, are staying at home, and that's okay. It kind of has to happen in this market. These young people aren't able to purchase homes anymore. So the bill was good, and we'll talk about why. This is the largest housing bill that was passed in over a decade. Okay. And this particular bill was built from over 60 different bills combined. Now, here's the great thing about this bill. Back in 2008, there was so much inventory on the market. And I remember, because I was the number one foreclosure broker in the area in Stockton, California, which was the number one foreclosure capital in America. And I was one of the top brokers. So I sold hundreds and hundreds of homes. And what happened was they had so many homes on the market for sale. The reason why the market dropped in the first place, let's talk about that. They weren't prepared for the flood of foreclosures like they are now. So people got in default. Well, first of all, the prices were inflated. They were giving everybody loans. And then when people couldn't pay them, then the bank started foreclosing. What they didn't expect was the flood of foreclosures, which dropped the prices significantly. And that's why you saw houses that were $300,000 were now $25,000. A condo that I'm actually selling right now, it's funny because the people who bought my house that I short sold them, I bought a condo off of them and I'm selling it. I didn't even think about that till right now. So I'm selling their property and I'm selling one of my properties. But when they bought the condo that they bought it for $25,000. It had sold before that for $300,000. Okay. So those are the type of fire sales that we had back in 2008. Properties that were worth $300,000 are now $25,000. Well, that's before they had loss mitigation departments in these mortgage companies that save the homes. So before you default on your loan, 3 months, you get a notice of default, 6 months, you're foreclosed, you're done. Today, they have loss mitigation departments that will work with you. So say you're late on your mortgage, say you lose your job, say you fall behind, they will work with you. I know foreclosures that haven't happened for 3 years. Now, if you're renting, if you're renting and you fall behind on your rent, by day 5, you're going to get a unlawful detainer and a notice to pay or quit. And the eviction process will start. You got 5 days, pretty much 5 to 7 days. But with home ownership, they have all these loss mitigation departments that they didn't have before. So these were safeguards. So that's the reason why you did not see that. That's why you saw the market drop like it did back in 2008. So they didn't have these loss mitigation departments. So they had a flood of homes on the market. They couldn't get rid of them fast enough. There was not enough buyers to buy all of these homes for 10 cents on the dollar. And so these corporate investors stepped in and they bought a whole bunch of them. So they were buying them because I would have the list and they would just sell them to all of these corporate investors who were able to get them. They were able to literally to pick them up for pennies. And in places like Atlanta, which was a high foreclosure market, investors own basically 30% of Atlanta. 30%, which is huge. Now, who is that affecting? It's mostly Black folks that are affected by these corporate investors. And so what happens is it's driven the price of the rentals up, it's driven the price of the housing up, it's made housing scarce for people who want to purchase homes. So what this housing bill will do is it stops corporate investors from buying these properties. Because once they started in 2008, 2012, they didn't stop. And so they stopped buying more and more. You look at companies like BlackRock and all of these companies, they're buying the lion's share of the properties. And so homeowners, first-time home buyers are cut out the market, and it's taken down supply and it's increased demand. So now with this new bill, it eliminates corporate investors. There's a cap on how many properties that they can buy. The other thing is so for your smaller dollar amounts, so things like under $100,000, most banks won't finance a loan for under $100,000 because there are a certain amount of fees that a lender can charge a borrower. And if the fees exceed the threshold, they can't do it. And just so they would actually be in the negative if they did if they serviced or if they did home loans for under $100,000. So what does that mean? A lot of homes under $100,000 couldn't get financed. This bill will allow for that. So you don't have to worry about the cap, the fee cap for mortgage companies. But even beyond that, so, okay, what houses are under $100,000? Well, you have now what we're going to start seeing that are going to be really attractive are your modular homes. That's what you're going to start seeing. So you're going to start seeing a lot more access to modular homes. And so even with the modular homes, what that does is they're going to allow, it removes the permanent chases requirements that they have to have for modular homes. Okay. And so what that'll do is it'll make more homes under $100,000 available to people for traditional financing, and they don't have to worry about all of the extra fees and with the mortgage companies. So that's a good thing. So you're going to see a lot more modular homes that are going to be available, that are going to be affordable for your regular buyers. That's the good thing. Okay. Also, zoning. One of the things that was really hard was for developers to go out and develop. And so now they're going to release a lot of zoning requirements for people like say. So one of the things that I do is I teach investors. I teach them how to invest in real estate, and I teach them how to develop real estate. And so as one of the things with zoning is there's a lot of red tape that you have to go through in order to start developing real property. So this is going to take back a lot of the requirements. It's going to make it easier for developers. Okay. It does not really help with down payment. It does not help with interest rates. Okay. So those are the two things that I think in our community that are most lacking. We don't have an inventory problem in most areas. We have an affordability problem. And I think that's what it does not address is the affordability issue. The economy is going crazy. We're in a recession, and everything is more expensive. And so houses aren't coming down. We may see some adjustments, but you're not going to see houses drop like they did in 2008. So what does that mean for people who want to get into the real estate market? What it means is you're going to have to do some things a little bit differently. It means that, remember I mentioned the multi-generational living, maybe buying homes with your parents, with your grandparents. Now what we're starting to see is builders building multi-generational homes. So I have clients that are purchasing homes for themselves, for their parents, and for their children. And everybody has their own living space. Everybody's going in together. Everybody's financing together. And it makes it to where it's affordable for everybody. So multi-generational living, it might be an option for you. Another option for you may be co-buying. And people have to get smart. You're going to have to get creative with your buying. Like just a person making good money, decent money, in a lot of places is homeownership may not be accessible. But suppose you and your best friend, you guys just got out of college, or maybe you're fully grown. You have an agreement in writing of how this is going to all pan out. You have a divorce clause, you have an exit strategy, but you go in together as co-buyers. You both qualify. You decide together, this is our contingency plan. This is how long we're going to be in this property. This is what we're going to do with the property. This is how we're going to use this equity as leverage to purchase another property. So we're going to do it. You got to do it like the Asians did it and how they do it. Do it like the Hispanics. I'm from San Jose, California. Asians, when I was growing up, Asians, it was 1,000 of them in the house. Hispanics, 2. And we used to laugh. But they own everything in San Jose, California. Why? Because they did not mind multi-generational living or co-buying. They did what they had to do. They put their funds together, and now they own every strip mall out there. So we're going to have to start thinking more strategically. Another way that we can do it is we buy multi-units. Say you bought a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. You can get a regular FHA loan, 3.5% down. The great thing about buying something like this is the rent that you get from one of the other units, you have to live in one, but the rent that you get from the other units, you can use that as income to help you qualify. And you can use it to help you pay the mortgage. That's a win-win. I love that. So don't just look at your first home as this has to be my forever home. This has to be the mansion. It doesn't have to be. What you're looking at it as is as an investment opportunity. Once you can get the investment in your mind, then you can get that forever home. You can get that McMansion. But look at home ownership as an investment opportunity not just a place to live. See, when you're living in an apartment, you're not building anything. One thing I often tell people is look at what you pay in your rent, how long you've been there, and how much you've spent in rent. So if you pay $2,000 a month and you've been there for 12 months, it's $24,000 a year. If you've been there 10 years, you basically spent $240,000 on somebody else's place. Think about that. 10 years ago, that house, they probably bought that house for $100,000. You've paid for that house twice by paying their rent. Okay. So think about the cost when you're purchasing a home. Not only do you have a place to live, but every month that you're putting money in there, it's like putting money in the bank. because your equity grows. You're paying down the principal, and when you sell it, you have money. When people talk about buying a home is not an investment, okay, when you move and when you sell, you have money to be able to do other things with, whether it's starting a business, whether it's buying another property, whether it's doing whatever, whether it's paying for your children's college tuition. You have money to be able to do things. You don't have that when you're renting. So you got to look at these as opportunities. We got to start looking at real estate a lot differently than we have in the past. This is not just about buying your 3-bedroom, 2-bath, white picket fence with, 2.5 kids. You got to look at this more strategically so that you can get to that place, because the market is much, much different. Okay. So a multi-unit is going to be a great opportunity because you have people that are going to be helping you pay your mortgage and helping you qualify. Or house hacking. Maybe you're in a place where you have 3 bedrooms. Maybe you have a basement. You buy that house that you could afford, and then you rent out the rooms. Now they're helping you pay your mortgage. One thing I need you to understand is rent has never gone down in the history of this country. More prices haven't been done this, but rent has never done that. Rent has always been steady. So as long as you own a property and you need to rent that bad boy out, you'll always have money. Okay. So I just wanted to tell you that I just wanted to talk a little bit about this bill. There's definitely a lot of supply, and it depends on where you are. But there are, I think, there are 1.5 million homes for sale in this country. That's what I read. And there are 1 million buyers. So we have more supply than demand. And here's the thing. Rates are going to go down because interest rates are cyclical. Okay. So interest rates are going to go down. And now, even with this housing bill, it's still a great time to buy. Even with the interest rates high, it's still a great time to buy. Why? Because if you can afford it, because there is more supply than demand, it means that you will have an opportunity to possibly get a good deal with good concessions. Now, most people are saying, I'm going to wait until the rates drop. You wait until the rates drop, everybody else wait until the rates drop. So now you have more competition. Now you have more buyers than sellers. Now the house prices are going up, and now you have less negotiating room. When you have more sellers than buyers, you have negotiating room. You might have a higher interest rate, but as long as you could afford it, that should be fine. You might be able to get your closing costs paid for. There are things that there are advantages of buying in a market like this, especially in a market where it's a buyer's market. Now, in some areas, like even that me and my daughter just closed a transaction last week in Columbia. No, was that in Columbia? Yeah, in Columbia, Maryland. It's a seller's market. So they wasn't giving them kind of incentives. You do have your pockets in different areas in the country where there's a seller's market. But for the most part throughout this country, it is still a buyer's market. That means there are still good deals. That means there's down payment assistance if you don't got the money. If you don't got the credit, take some of I got books about credit. I got a book right here. Bestseller book, sold thousands of copies that you can get that will help you increase your credit score quickly. So make sure that you take advantage. This is what I want to tell you. Make sure you take advantage. Don't think like everybody else thinks. We got to start thinking strategically. We got to start thinking differently so that we could take advantage. They said in the year 2053, Black median wealth was going to be at 0. Listen, I told you I exist to help Black people build wealth, period. Unapologetically. Okay. Everybody else got everybody else helping them. When you look at other communities, they don't have the same disparities that we have. And so I'm here to stand in the gap to make sure that we understand and know what's possible. So 2053, they said our median wealth is going to be at 0. I don't believe that because there's too much opportunity and information out there. The only thing that you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is just grab it. Is just do it. Okay. So there's 2 things I want you Can you see me? There you go. I don't know if it went off, but first thing I want you to do is I want you to go to firstkeys.club. I want you to go there and I want you to take this free home ownership assessment, this mortgage readiness assessment. It'll tell you where you are, what you need to do. And what that's going to do is going to tell you, you'll get a free roadmap of the next steps that you need to do in order. This is free. I ain't getting nothing for it. But this is your mortgage readiness assessment that you can take to see where you stand when it comes to purchasing a home. Okay. Now, beyond that, if you are ready, if you are wanting to be in the market, if you want to become a homeowner, if you want to become an investor, if you want to use real estate as that way for you to build wealth, then join the First Keys Club. What is the First Keys Club? The First Keys Club, and it's still only $49 a month. It's a private community where I coach you, me and my team coach you to go from where you are hear me? Damn. Okay, I'm back. We're back. Okay. So this is absolutely free. Oh, so the community, it's a community where I'm coaching you to go, me and my team are coaching you to go from where you are to homeowner to investor eventually. That's what we want. So this is our mission at Catalyst Real Estate Professionals, no matter where you are in the country. So you don't have to be in DC, Maryland, Virginia, California. You could be anywhere. You can be in Texas. You can be in Florida. We have people from all over who are a part of this. It's only $49 a month. You will get assigned to a mentor that's going to personally help you get to where you need to be. And we're going to connect you with folks who are in your area that can help you ultimately get a home. We're going to help you with the entire process. So if you're interested in First Keys community, go to firstkeys.club. Okay. The other thing is, so for those of you who have something, who have property, who have assets, on the 26th of July, I am hosting a what do you call this? A Living Trust Masterclass, where in an afternoon, we're going to help you put your living trust together. Now, I don't know if you guys know what a living trust is, but it costs thousands of dollars from attorneys. Okay. I paid thousands of dollars for my living trust. So I'm going to help you to put your living trust together. 70% of Black families do not have any type of asset protection. So anything you see that I do, any books that you see that I have, I'm really just trying to fill in the gap to what we are lacking. And so credit is one of those pieces, your living trust. So it's not enough to just build the wealth, but you have to be able to pass it as well, and educating you on that. So that is only $97. Actually, oh, shoot. Oh, today is going up to $149. So if you have not signed up, today's the 15th. If you haven't signed, I'll give you until midnight tonight, and it's going up to $149 for the living trust. Create your living trust in one afternoon. It's $97 right now, and it's going up to $149 at midnight tonight. It was supposed to be like midnight last night, but midnight tonight. I'm gonna give you guys some midnight tonight to get registered in the class. This is going to be a 3-hour training where I'm going to give you the hands-on to creating your living trust in one afternoon. You're going to save thousands of dollars. $149, yo, you cannot beat that. So I even had an attorney in our last class. Go to makemylivingtrust.com/masterclass. I even had an attorney in the last one, and she said that this was so extensive that she's actually using my living trust for her clients, and she does living trust. So go to makemylivingtrust.com/masterclass so that you can be a part of Make My Living Trust. I'm gonna put the link in so that you can join us for. There you go. So that you can join us for this class on the 26th. $97 right now. You're saving thousands of dollars on your living trust. And then tonight at midnight, it's going to go up to $149. I promise you. So Sign up for it ASAP so that you can be a part of this, so that it's not going to cost you a whole lot of money. Okay, and you can not only have the wealth, but you can pass the wealth. Okay, so thank you guys for listening to me talk about this, because I am, y'all, if you have not noticed, extremely passionate about building Black wealth, and I understand that real estate is one of the number one ways. I'm not done talking yet, because I have some folks that I want to talk to you about, because I think a large part of the wealth in our country, it starts with education. And I can tell you, a mother of 4 children, 3 Black sons, Jawanza Kunjufu talked about in his book, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Sons is very real. I did a video about it. I talked about statistically how Black boys are punished harsher than anybody else. They have less tolerance for Black kids. They have less, and it depends. But when you are, especially in schools where, that you have a Black minority, you have situations where Black kids, and they've done studies on this, they get suspended 10 times more than white kids who do the same thing. And so I think this is a very important topic. But not only that, I think we should look at fatigue of teachers. Why teachers are doing, in this day and age, teachers don't even want to teach anymore. Teachers have no desire to teach. My son graduated from college, and a lot of people are like, hey, he's looking for a job in finance. And a lot of people are like, hey, tell him to become a teacher, just until he gets a job. Nobody wants to do it because it's a thankless job. These teachers are out here risking their lives for to educate these children, and who's really supporting them? So I want to talk about that. But before we do, I want to tell you about Net 7 Collective, because a couple of the women, or one of the women who are going to come and talk to us about this very thing, she's in a community that I have called Net 7 Collective, which I'm so proud of. And if you don't know anything about Net 7, let me just tell you about who we are.
People always ask me, what is the Net 7 Collective, and what do you actually learn inside this community? Inside this community, you will learn how to bring your ideas to life. So if you have a dream or a business concept that you've been sitting on, I'm going to show you how to turn it into something real. You'll learn how to set up your business entity. You'll learn how to build your credit so that you can leverage it to build your wealth. You'll learn how to invest in real estate and stocks and additional revenue streams that help you create long-term stability. You'll learn side hustles that generate real income. You'll learn how to build a brand that reflects really who you are. You're going to learn about drop shipping. You're going to learn how to create your own podcast. You're going to learn how to develop your public speaking skills and how to market your business so that it grows. Net 7 was a 12-week program, but I decided to make it a lifetime membership because I'm so invested in Black women, especially with what's going on. 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs. So I want to make sure that these women have everything that they need so that they can thrive in this current environment. I'm committed, and I only want women who are also committed. So if this is something that speaks to your heart, you're trying to figure out your next, then join this community of brilliance.
Hey, so this is a community that I'm super proud of. This is my passion project. There's an African proverb that says, when you teach a man, you teach an individual, but when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. And that's the reason why I started the Net 7 Collective, because what I believe is, when we're talking about closing the wealth gap, I don't believe that that we're going to be zero in 2053, but I also believe that Black women are going to be a huge part of that. When you give us food, we're going to make a meal. When you give us a house, we're going to make a home. If you give us a seed, we're going to make a baby. That's what we do. We multiply. And so I am with these brilliant women who do nothing but multiply out in the world. And so first I want to introduce you to Dr. Deborah Cox of Net 7 Collective. Let me tell you a little bit about Miss Cox. And since she's been in Net 7, this lady has written like 25 books.
Not bad, Manny.
Dr. Cox is an educator. She's an author. She's a speaker and founder of Healing Through Learning. She has with more than 25 years of experience in education. She's passionate about helping children, families, educators, and communities recognize challenges, respond with purpose, and restore emotional wellness through her frameworks. The thing I love, what really impressed me about Dr. Deborah is she went from a GED to a PhD. Wait, let me say it one more time for the people in the back. Dr. Deborah went from a GED to a PhD. Do you understand what that means? See, I got a PhD too. A public high school diploma is different than Dr. Cox's uh, PhD, much different. And so when you
Mhm.
could come from that sort of deficit and get to the ranks of a PhD, and not only that, but making an impact in the lives of children, I mean, that's huge. And so, welcome, Dr. Deborah. It's always good to have you. You
Hi,
look beautiful as always.
thank you. It's good to be
Next,
here. Thank
oh,
you for having me.
of course. Next, I want to introduce you to Miss Michelle Oden. Now, Michelle Oden is an educator, author, speaker with over a decade of experience working in underserved schools. She has a BS in psychology and an MA in teaching. She's a passionate advocate for mental health and education. Through her network, she helps educators navigate burnout and emotional overwhelm by bringing truth to the hidden realities of teaching and create spaces for honest reflection and healing. Her message resonates with teachers who feel overwhelmed, unseen, and ready for change. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you for having
So, I
us.
think this is going to be a great conversation because a lot of people, we talk about education. We see a lot of the stuff that we see on social media. We see the unruly children. We see, teachers fighting kids. We see kids getting arrested. We see all the drama that happens within schools. You see, you go to Title I schools and they may have metal detectors. When you go to other schools, they don't. There's huge disparities in our school systems, right?
Mhm.
Based upon
Yes.
taxes, the tax revenues. So if you're in an
Mhm.
area where there's high tax bases, you're going to get better schools, better opportunity, better education. Um, they spend $3.2 billion more on white schools than they do on black schools for schools with children of color. That's a fact. $3.2 billion more.
Mhm.
So there's all the things that you talk about, Michelle, about the burnout and the stress and all of those things. I would imagine, and I'm not sure what type of school that you teach in, but I'm sure that that would be something that it contributes to you as as an educator.
Absolutely. And I think that the reason why this conversation is so important is because a lot of times people don't realize all of the things that we as teachers deal with, all of the struggles that we carry inside the classroom, things that we're dealing with outside of school and outside of work, those things that they expect us to leave at the door when we enter the building. That's nearly impossible for us to leave at the door at times. We're still carrying those things while also at the same time being expected to put those things on the back burner in order to show up for our students and teach them and implement these lessons that we have to do effectively. But it's also a struggle because we're human at the end of the day, and burnout isn't something that you can just shake off.
Dr. Deborah, do you see the same thing with burnout? Because I know you probably have double the amount of time as her, and you come from an administrator perspective. How does burnout affect you?
Well, what she's saying is very accurate. And I noticed the difference when I left administration and went into the classroom and then came back out of the classroom again, that 70% of the teachers within 5 years of experience or less leave the profession. And they leave the profession because they feel that, first of all, the pay is inadequate. There's a very heavy workload, which leads to that burnout. I remember I had a teacher, her name was Kate. I won't say her last name, but I remember her telling me when I was a principal, she said, Dr. Cox, we cannot do anything more. You can't give us anything more. And it wasn't until I was put back into until I went back into the classroom by choice that I saw and understood what she meant. When we asked so much of the teachers and put so much on the teachers, and like Miss Oden is saying, and the teachers come in already traumatized from their own personal lives, and then they come into an environment where there's just more on the teachers. Now we have to do parenting, basically. We have to do data. We have to do that inordinate amount of testing. You have to have those pristine lesson plans, which, all of those things are important. But when we place so much emphasis on that as opposed to doing what's really in the best interest of the student, which is making sure that the teachers are in a safe place, a place where they can be productive. Is unless we get that to that point, it's just going to continue to spill over in the classroom, and I see it every day.
All of what you're saying is great information, but I'm still stuck on the 70% of teachers in 5 years end up quitting the profession. And you
Mhm.
would think that, America being supposedly the number one superpower, I forget where we rank when it comes to education with first world countries, but we're not at the top anymore. They don't prioritize education. When we look at, and I believe that it also affects our national security. You think about it. You're not educating the people. So now you got to bring people from other countries to come over to do the jobs that our children just aren't ready to do because they're not educated enough, because they don't put enough emphasis on teachers. These are the people who are going to be leading the free world. But it seems like there's a tinge of maybe classism in there too, because it's like they only really care about educating maybe the top 1%. Those are the people who get the pristine education. Those are the people who get the private schools, who get, those are the people who have the wealth. And then
Mhm.
everybody else, they're just kind of left to fend for themselves. They're educating
Mhm.
them to be employees. What do you say about that?
Exactly.
I think that you hit the nail on the head, but I think there's also a strong disconnect in what actually needs to go into making sure that your child is educated properly. And a main part that is missing, a big key that's missing, is the disconnect between parenting and teaching. So I
Mhm.
think that parents are just expecting their children to be able to go to school and be educated on every single thing that they need to be educated on in order to become successful. But
Right.
they're not taking into consideration the fact that their child is not the only child in the classroom. We have 20, 30 kids at a time. So in order for us to properly educate your child, it's next to impossible without them getting um help outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
So something that would be helpful for these children to be able to get educated in the way that they really need to be educated is for the parents to step up and take accountability and work with them at home on the things that they're going over while they're at school in the classroom, because all of the attention and time isn't spent on them. If they have some sort of a deficit, the teachers have to figure out how to try to plan and teach to that deficit in order to help them come up. Whereas if those things were taking place in the classroom on a daily basis and they were getting help outside of school, such as maybe tutoring, there's a lot of places that offer tutoring. There's also virtual tutoring. You don't even have to leave your home anymore, where your child can get that one-on-one support and they can get the things that they need specifically focused on with them and their challenges. That would be something that can help them get educated and get to a place where they need to be. But unfortunately, we're not seeing much of that. Education isn't important and it's not a priority a lot of times in certain communities, and it just takes a back seat. I feel like, and I say
Mhm.
all the time, we put more emphasis on sports than we do education, and they don't understand that in the same way that your child becomes successful at a sport by practicing consistently, that's the same way and the same emphasis that needs to be put on education in order for them to progress in the way that they need to.
You think about that though,
Well,
because they're paying coaches way
Exactly.
more than they're paying teachers. So we
Exactly.
know where the priorities are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing that you talked about is like the discipline piece, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but being involved,
Mm-hmm.
being an engaged parent. Now, again, I got 4 kids, 3 boys. So I mentioned in the beginning Joanza Kunjunfu's book about the conspiracy to destroy Black boys. I'm a living witness to that, having 3 Black sons. And so what I've had to do is I had to advocate for my kids. I had to let them know their parents are present, We are here, we are engaged, and what you're not going to do is treat my children like they don't got no engaged parent. Now, they shouldn't treat anybody's kids like that, but I really only had to do that with my oldest son, not because he had behavioral issues, but it was because they assumed that he was automatically going to be this bad kid. And when I showed up and let him know who the hell was his parents, that's when we start to see how they treated him very differently. And so since we were so engaged in him, when the other ones came along, we're pretty much okay because they knew. They saw everybody. They saw mom, dad, and 4 children at every single parent teacher conference together.
And
And in the schools, they were like, we've never seen anything like this. Not the mom, dad, and 4 kids at every single parent teacher conference, all 6 of us together. That was important because it was not only us showing up, but it was also us, with a
sending a
message.
message.
Yeah, sending a message that we're here for our children, and this is not this is the standard, right? And so that's what I believe that we got to do as parents from our side. From your side, Dr. Deborah or Dr. Cox, what do you think that parents need to do in order to make sure that their children are successful?
I think parents do need to collaborate with the school and the teachers, but I also know, and from my experience, that many of the parents are working 2 and 3 jobs just to sustain life. And anything beyond what they get in the classroom is it's strenuous. They're going through their own type of trauma. And I do know that from my experience as a principal for over 16 years, that the budget has impacted many, many, many of the programs. When I was principal in Pittsburgh, when they started cutting budgets around No Child Left Behind, that's when all the budget cuts really started happening and happening thick in Title I schools and in schools that needed those resources to implement social emotional programs, to implement effective tutoring programs, because we have those now, but how effectively run they are is the question. And so I think it's a combination. It used to be when I was traveling and doing research with the New York schools, no excuses schools, they had more resources then. They were able to put parental contracts in place so that parents had a partnership with the schools. But now the parents are more aggressive, and they are more attacking of teachers than they are being supportive. And that has in itself an adverse effect, because if you think about it, if I'm being kind and sweet to you, then and working with you as a partner, I'm going to be I'm going to get more from you than I would if I'm combative with you. I'm just going to give you the bare, give you what you want. And that's just by human nature, because you don't want to cross the boundaries and have to deal with the confrontation again. So you're going to just give the parent what they want. And I think that it's a synergistic effect, that it's the lack of teacher training, it's the lack of resources, it's the lack of it's the way of parenting in 2026, or since we've turned that path of parenting multiple jobs. And then some of it is just plain ignorance, because I was an ignorant parent, and I'm speaking from, and now I'm giving back, and giving back to my grandchildren, and doing what I can to help my sons raise their children, because I was one of those parents that I went to school. I divorced, I went to school, and I was adamant about school. And my kids would tell you I was up to 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were still in my car. And I did, for me to go to um, a conference, I went to the conferences, but for me to be that engaged parent the way I needed to be, for me, it was survival.
Yeah.
So it's a
So
combination of things.
when you talk about the state as it is now, as opposed to what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, Miss Odin, you look at the way that kids are taught. And we still have the same setup that we had 100 years ago when schools started, and we have all of this technology. People learn differently. We have things, we have phones and social media. And so, do you really believe that the traditional way of teaching is effective today?
No, I don't think that the traditional way of teaching is effective today because so many things are different now. Like the world is completely different. And I think that I heard you mention the technology piece. I think that technology should be integrated in effective teaching because we can do so much more with the use of technology. However, I do believe that we still should incorporate some of the old school methods from teaching, such as working with pencil and paper. Like something that we're seeing with a lot of these kids now is that they have trouble writing. They have
They
trouble writing
can't
for
write.
long periods of time. They can't hold the pencil correctly. If they can't hold the pencil, they're not pushing it down hard enough so that, when they write on the paper, the ink from the pencil is actually showing up. It's a lot of things that technology has done to help us advance education, but there's also a lot of things that technology has done to harm us in education because they're on technology so much now. They're on technology at home, they're on game systems, they're on phones, they're on tablets, they're on whatever it is that they're on in order to use technology, and then they come into the classroom and they're on Chromebooks and computers all day. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it would still be effective. I think that we need to find a middle ground. We need to
Yes.
find some sort of a middle ground in order to be able to incorporate all of the pieces so that we can set these students up for success, because what's happening right now, it's not it.
I
Mhm.
tell you, listen, I was talking to the young people today. It was my 17-year-old son, his friends,
Mhm.
and I said something about if they knew how to address an envelope. They don't.
No,
If they knew how to write in cursive, they
no,
don't.
no,
If they knew how to write a check, they don't.
They
no,
don't.
And it's basic stuff. Okay, we probably not writing checks no more. Maybe we tapping. Okay, but I mean, y'all
Mhm.
don't know how to send a letter.
no,
Y'all don't know how to do write and curt or do a signature. I saw my
no.
son. I went to my son's room this morning. He had a check that he deposited in his bank. His signature was his first name. I was like, "This your signature? Like it's just his name written. Y'all don't have like so just basics. Is this stuff not needed anymore? Is this antiquated or is this like what's going on with these kids?"
Mhm.
Mhm.
It is needed. It's just that it's not needed as often. And I think that too, me and one of my friends was having this conversation a while ago, about maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, where we were talking about how there was a period of time where children were different in terms of figuring things out. There's no more mystery nowadays. Like they can go to the computer and Google anything. They can go to AI and Google or type in and find the answer to anything. And so back then, when we had to figure things out, that created a certain level of critical thinking skills. And
Right.
so because we were raised in that way where our parents were able to kind of like leave us to find things out on our own, I think that a lot of times this day and age, parents are still coming from that perspective where they're expecting the kids to just know things already or that they'll just figure it out, when a lot of times that's not the case. Because in most cases, I won't say all because everybody's different, but in most cases, those critical thinking skills are not there. And critical
Right.
thinking is a
Mhm.
large part of
Kids
what's
Mhm.
got
needed.
critical think. They got AI. No critical
Exactly. Exactly.
But that too comes from their executive functioning. It has not been fully developed. These kids have been traumatized. I mean, you're talking about they've come through, and I'm not making excuses. Don't get me wrong, because we're on the same page. But they come to us already traumatized, and when the kid is traumatized, the environment and everything has to be pristine for them, or conducive for them to even thrive, to think, because their executive function has not even been fully developed, or it has been impacted from the trauma.
Yeah.
And as far as the dealing with technology, I think that there should be a planned integration of the two, the old school and the new school. However, I do think that that's not the problem. I think the problem is adequate training and preparation for the teachers on how to implement a program with integration of technology, with integration of manipulatives, so that our students come to us needing more concrete knowledge than they can before they can even go to the abstract. But the curriculum and the pacing of that curriculum does not permit them the time to struggle, like what you were saying, Miss Odin, about discovery learning, for them to struggle with the manipulatives, to learn how to approach a situation or a problem. The time does not allow that, because on this day you have to be on this page, on the next day you have to be on, and by the end of the quarter, if you're not there, then you are called to task. And I've seen it so many times when I've just wanted to say, the hell with the pacing. We need to make sure that these kids understand it conceptually. If they don't understand it conceptually, they're not going to get the procedural part of it accurate.
So, but it makes me think about teachers, because it's sad. I mean, how do we support teachers? How does the public? How can we support you? Because when you talk about the training that's required to operate in this day and time, I remember my aunt teacher. She had to work a part-time job at a restaurant just to make ends meet. She had to pay for supplies,
Mhm.
just so that she could teach these kids who are disrespectful, who aren't coming to school with everything that they need, who don't have home support. So when you look at the mental health of the teachers, because you said 70% of them end up getting out of the field within 5 years, which I don't blame them. It's dangerous, it's taxing mentally. So again, Miss Odin, how does the public support you?
I think the first way, and maybe the most important way that the public could support teachers, is to recognize that we are human. We are human. We show up, and yes, we have a heart for teaching kids and helping to educate them, and doing all that it is that comes with our job and our role as a teacher. But at the core of it, we are human, and this is our career. No different than a bus driver. That's how they go to work so that they can make money in order to support themselves and sustain a living. It's no different from for us. This is how we go to work, and this is how we make money in order to sustain a living. So I think that's the first way people can look at us and know that we are human. Not only are we showing up on a daily basis and trying to make sure that we're supporting these kids and playing a part in their future and supporting their learning and educating them, but we also have things going on outside of work. We're not just limited to the classroom. This isn't our whole entire lives. So just understanding that we're human, also coming at us in a way that they would want us to come at them, being respectful, being kind, not just coming at us in a way that's combative and just giving us pushback every time we reach out and we say, hey, X, Y, and Z is happening, or oh, I noticed that this was going on, or this is happening with your kid. And I'm just coming to you because maybe if we can get on the same page, we can help them through this. But instead of, being supportive and working with us and collaborating and so that we can be a team for the best success of the child, a lot of times they give us pushback and they want to argue with us and dispute whatever it is that we're saying. So just understanding that we're not here to hurt your kids, we're here to help them. So being open to the things that we're saying, if we're offering these resources, hey, I noticed that Johnny was struggling with this. If you use this at home, maybe this can help support him. Offering those resources, being open-minded to the things that the teacher is coming to them saying, and not just from a place of negativity, but assuming positive intent. Like that's something that I live by in every aspect of my life. I assume positive intent. So I don't just out the gate think that someone's coming at me negatively to try to hurt me or hurt my feelings or break me down, but I assume positive intent. And I think that if parents did that, then that will be better as well. And also the public, because you asked about everybody being able to support teachers, but the public as well.
Mhm.
You know,
I would say,
before you say your part, I was just thinking about like what you said, Miss Odin, and I think it's, we as parents have to take responsibility on that too. My first not my first interaction, but I remember growing up, my aunt used to go up there and curse out teachers behind her badass son. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are a lot of people who go up there
Mm-hmm.
and curse out teachers behind their badass
Yes.
kids, and
Yes.
they not disciplining their kids, but they want to come and
Mm-hmm.
curse out the teachers because their kids is acting up and you calling them to the carpet. So I
Yes.
think, what we as parents, we got to. I remember one time, y'all, my son. Now I was, again, they knew what time it was, but my middle son, he told me that the teacher was racist, right? Oh, the teacher's racist. She didn't like me. So I was like, all right, bet. Let's go up there. We gonna handle this. So we go up there, and so she's scared. Like, I had these teachers like spooked. So she's like, I'm like, my son, we gonna get to the bottom of this. So we waiting on my son to come. He telling me all the stuff about the teacher don't like him, why he don't like him, and all that stuff. So he gets in there, and so she's like, she's telling me about stuff he's doing, and I'm like, is that true, son? He's like, yeah. Wait a minute, hold up. And then I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
then why don't you move him? She said, I did, but he sat
Mm-hmm.
right back in the same spot. Is that true, son? Yeah. So me, of course, I come up there defensive for my baby, but we was like, oh, I had to apologize to her because at the end of the day, it was him. You gonna do all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff at
most of the
home,
time,
up there, and you gonna make me out to be a lie. I'm ready to take
Uh-huh.
off on this lady, but we had to hold him accountable. And
Mm-hmm.
his dad at the time was like, "Hey, how you gonna have us up here, seeing this teacher, and this is you." And so that's the thing too is, hey, if you're wrong, parents, we got to take accountability because, of course, we
Mm-hmm.
want to defend our children, but if our children are wrong, we got to make sure that we're supporting the teachers in their wrongness too,
Mm-hmm.
as parents.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but
Mm-hmm.
Dr. But Dr. Cox, for you, how do we support you as teachers?
I think the support would come from collaborating with the schools, like Miss Odin has already said, in a positive way. I think that, well, I don't think from my experience, having that collaboration and reaching out to the community and making those connections so that we have community support when we don't have the family support. And ideally, it would be great if we could get everybody, every family in the school on board, but that's not the reality of the world that we live in. And you talked about parents, I mean, the money that teachers spent. I want to touch that and then I'll come back to this. Trump took away the option to deduct from our pay for teachers. We can only take off $250. Year before last, I spent $18,000 because
On
I
your
wanted of my own money. A year before last, well, 2 years ago, because I found out about the law that Trump undid that caused me not to spend as much this year. And the reason why I did it, I wasn't being crazy. I was able to take it off, which it paid off in the end. Plus, it provided students with an opportunity to have schools that looked like our suburban schools. I wanted them to have those type of experiences for their promotion, for their National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony and things of that. I wanted it to be pristine. So we can't take that money off anymore. We used to be able to take it off our base salary, which would lower our salary. We can't do that anymore. And the other thing is, if we would all embrace the fresh start um, philosophy, where no matter what a child does, no matter what a parent does, we start off fresh every for every new experience. That we don't hold the grudges or hold the experience in our heart, so that we cannot show up the way we need to show up for our scholars. And then I think in terms of community, I think that if administration would embrace shared decision making, authentic. shared decision making, it will go a lot further along with the teachers and keeping the teachers happy. Because again, it's teachers are like wife and husband. You know the saying, happy wife, happy home, happy teacher, happy classroom. And if we invest in teachers instead of going so wide and expecting so much,
Mm,
have a more insular focus that's going to pay off in the end, and it's more systemic, not like the one and done training, but
right.
focus on one or two things, maybe three if we can, but three's a lot. But one or two things and go deep and not wide, then I think that we would have more um, satisfaction with our teachers if we planned more strategically and included shared, authentic shared decision making. Don't tell me that we're having shared decision making when you've already made all the decisions and I'm coming in the room and just saying, okay.
I just believe that the country just has to do a better job in supporting teachers. Period. It's we as parents have to take our responsibility as parents, how we, parent and how we show up at schools. But this
Mhm.
country has to do a better job of the support. I'm going to give you guys a final thought, but I'd like to know for you, what do you fear? What concerns you most about the future of education? What concerns you both most? I'm gonna let you go first, Miss Odin. What concerns you most about the future of education? And then tell us where they can find you, how they can follow you. Somebody on here said he has some software or something that he would. So how do they find you? So what concerns you most about the future of education, and where can they find you?
What concerns me most is what these children, when they grow up, will be able to do and how they will be able to function as members of society, how they will be able to contribute. All of that concerns me. I'm not sure. I mean, I to go back to something that you said earlier, they're creating them to be employees, but they're also creating them not to be independent thinkers, not to be independent thinkers, but to rely on AI, to rely on technology, to rely on everybody and everything else around them, instead of being able to critically think for themselves and being able to just figure things out and put different plans into motion. The behavior, we've seen an uptick, a major uptick in behavior. It's prevalent all across the world. We're seeing these teen takeovers that people are witnessing on social media. These kids come to school and they act the same way. If ain't nobody told you, this is how they act at school. So those of us that are in education, we're looking at these things happening and we're not surprised. We're not surprised.
Mhm.
So that's something else that concerns me. The behavior. Are they going to be able to grow up and be all that it is that they can be? Or are they going to make a poor decision and go out and do something that can potentially get them harmed or get them thrown in jail or thrown in prison? That's something else that concerns me because there is no accountability. The behavior is very poor. The behavior is poor. So that's
Mhm.
something that concerns me. Just being able to witness how these children
Okay.
are going to grow up and how they're going to function as members of society, what they're going to be able to do, how successful they will really be able to be. And I don't mean successful in terms of just getting money, but are you rich in your mind? Are you rich in how you think, how you move, the relationships that you form? All of those things it goes into how you are as a member of society. um so that's
Okay.
what really concerns me. Just one more time, I know I already said it, but to go back to the behavior and the lack of accountability, the behavior and the lack of accountability really really concerns me. And I'm
Mhm.
afraid, like I am genuinely, as a teacher, I'm genuinely afraid to see what the future is going to look like 10 years from now,
So
based
should
on
we
everything that I
pack
see.
our bag and start moving to another country? Sheesh.
I don't know.
Sir.
Something should be done, but like based on what I see every single day in the classroom, based on what I'm experiencing, just even the apathy. There is no more grit. There is no more perseverance. They get stuck on something and they quit. There is no, oh, I'm going to keep going until I try to
I bet
figure
you,
it out.
I bet you they don't quit the game.
Thank you. And that's just where I was going. Because I say that so many times to them. Like, if you were at home playing your PS5 right now, your Xbox, would you have quit? No, you would not have quit. You would have kept going and you would have kept trying until you beat the level. So don't quit. Think of it as the same thing when you're in school and
Yeah.
when you're working on these things that you're having trouble with. And I tell my kids all the time, it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes is how you learn. Making mistakes is how you learn. Nobody knows everything. And I love when they ask me questions that I do not know, whether it's something that's related to the lesson or whether it's just something that's related to life, because I'm quick to tell them I don't know. But I'm going to
Okay.
find out, and I'll show them like, hey, this is how I'm going to go find out. Like, and I make sure I make it a point to let them know that nobody knows everything, including me. As your teacher, I do not know everything. Nobody knows everything. So it's okay to make mistakes, but you have to try in order to even make those mistakes. So yeah, I'm concerned about all of that. And I really do think that things can change, but I think that it has to be an overall change. It's not something that can just take place in the schools. It's not something that can just take place at home. It has to be systemic wide that the change comes from in order for it to actually really be effective. And everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody has to be on the same page, and people have to be willing and open to getting the help for the things that they do not know.
Okay.
Where can they find you, Miss Michelle? Miss
You
Dr.
can find me on Instagram at The Real Lesson Plan. It's the same title as my book, The Real Lesson Plan. You can find me on Amazon if you want to search for the book that I wrote, just detailing. I talked a lot about teacher trauma. It's still showing up, even though you have all of these things that you're carrying, the invisible weight load, coming into the classroom, grieving. I lost 9 family members in 2 years, and I still every day had to show up. So I talk about a lot of that in the book. I talk about decision making, policy changes, systemic effects. So you can find me there. You can search the book on Amazon, The Real Lesson Plan. And that's it.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, dear. All right,
Mhm.
Dr. Cox, what about you? What makes you what do you fear about the future of education?
I fear that if we do not create an environment for students and teachers to thrive in, that education will continue to be, I'm sorry, that discipline will continue to be one of the top reasons why teachers do not stay in the field. I feel that if we do not create an environment through a framework such as the R3, recognize, respond, restore, that United States will always be, according to the PISA, sixth in reading, 13th in science, and 28th in mathematics, which is not a good place for us to be in to be successful and to thrive in this world. I think that unless we invest in and be smart and strategic about what our true values are and what we want to produce in terms of delivering instruction, that we are going to see a group of students, predominantly poor students, filling those jobs that Trump predicted were
The black
the
jobs?
black jobs, the black jobs. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
That
Well, where
so
can
it
we
takes
find
a
Dr.
village.
Yes,
You can
ma'am.
find me on Healing Through Learning, htledu.org. I have published a plethora of books. There
Yes,
are
yes.
some SBL books on working with children. I just started a brain series children's book. The LeBron is published, and I have some other books. I'm all on Amazon, but I am at htledu.org, Healing Through Learning.
That is so dope.
Stop
So
by
thank
and see me.
and what's your Instagram? Where can they follow you?
I
Dee
think
Dee
my
Cox.
Insta. Yes, I think it's Dee Dee Cox 777.
Okay.
Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
All right. So listen, y'all. This was a very fruitful conversation that needed to be had. We talk about wealth. Education is number one, is paramount. I mean, there's no way that we're going to get to the place where we are thriving, where we are dominating, if we don't have the education. And
Right.
parents, please, 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 please get involved. Support your children. Don't go in there cussing out
Yes.
these teachers,
Please.
and make
Please.
it a win-win for everybody involved. That's how you can
Yes.
support these teachers, because they ain't got to be teaching your raggedy ass kids. They do this because they love to do it, not because they have to do. They could be doing anything else. So help them help you. All right. Take care. God bless. We love you. We appreciate you guys. Follow me everywhere. I am Constance